All right, folks, we are back here on WLTH 1370M. That's 92.7 in the FM dial. If you're nasty, it is 6:47 in the PM here on July the 19th, 2024. The future is here. The future is now. All right, humans, this is Straight Out of the Cannon with me, Scott Cannon, and we, in the first segment, we're talking about Donald Trump, our former president, surviving an assassination attempt, apparently. Now, that's not all that happened to Trump this week. He finally picked a vice presidential candidate. His running mate is going to be J.D. Vance. That's right. J.D. Vance, Ohio Senate candidate J.D. Vance. Now, the thing that makes J.D. Vance so interesting is that J.D. Vance he wrote this book called Hillbilly Elegy that was made into a book starring Amy Adams and Meryl Streep. I think it was Glenn Close. Glenn Close and Meryl Streep. One of them. I always get them confused. One of the two. And it was basically written from the perspective of a guy from working class white America from Appalachia who came from a family just like the ones that are talked about all the time, being torn apart by drug addiction and poverty in Appalachia. The people who went for Donald Trump in 2016. But he made it out, went to Harvard or Yale. Yale. He went to Yale and was somehow a sort of, he was marketing himself and his book as sort of a meeting ground between Trump supporters, the types of Appalachian, working class, blue collar, white, suffering Trump supporters, and liberals. He marketed himself as a liaison between the liberal class, the metropolitan elites that rule the country, and sort of the white working class that were lashing out and voting for someone like Trump. Now, when Trump was ascending, J.D. Vance had a whole lot to say about Donald Trump. And let me just say this. None of it was good. This is what he had to say about Trump.
I'm a never Trump guy. I never liked him. It makes you think that at a fundamental level, this is sort of a he said, she said, right? And at the end of the day, do you believe Donald Trump, who always tells the truth? Just kidding. Or do you believe that woman on that tape?
As a conservative who thinks that Trump does not have the answers and isn't qualified to be president, what are you going to do this election, if you don't mind saying?
My current plan is to vote either third party, or as I joke to my wife, I might write in my dog, because that's about as good as it seems. But, you know, I think there's a chance, if I feel like Trump has a really good chance of winning, that I might have to hold my nose and vote for Hillary Clinton.
Should a woman be forced?
So that's him saying that he would vote for Hillary Clinton if Donald Trump had a chance to win. He compared Trump to Hitler. Yes. In a Facebook message from 2016, he was discussing Donald Trump's 2016 presidential election bid with Josh McLaurin, who was a Georgia state representative who used to be J.D. Vance's roommate when they were at Yale. He in the back and forth, J.D. Vance actually says, I go back and forth between thinking that Trump is a cynical a-hole like Richard Nixon, who wouldn't be that bad and might even prove useful, or thinking that he is America's Hitler. How is that for discouraging? So that's his current vice presidential candidate talking about talking about Donald Trump. So we're seeing that what we've always seen about Trump. You guys, a lot of you guys, for some reason, seem to think I like Trump just because I acknowledge that I don't call him Hitler constantly. I've always said I think he's more in line with Silvio Berlusconi, a billionaire playboy who just wants to sleep with models and, you know, be on TV and sort of be, you know, a sort of this sort of father-like figure, this sort of dysfunctional, weird father-like figure, which is what Berlusconi seemed to be in Italy. I never bought that Trump was some horrible genocidal fascist or something, for the simple fact that I don't think Trump has any values. I don't think he has any morals. I don't think he has any beliefs. I just think he's that's why he's so suggestible to whoever's around him. Whoever's around Donald Trump last has the ability to influence him, because he really does not care. He's ignorant, and he doesn't care that he's ignorant. Remember, he thought Frederick Douglass was still alive? Remember that from his presidency? Yeah, the man thought Frederick Douglass was still alive. So do I have the same level of, disgust for Trump that I have for the cynical liberal elite class? No, because Trump's a fraud. Trump would not be a factor if the liberal elite class did what they were supposed to be doing. I always say, don't get mad at the Frankenstein monster. Be mad at Dr. Frankenstein. That's who built the monster. Because even if you get rid of Frankenstein monster, Dr. Frankenstein, as long as you let Dr. Frankenstein doing what he do, he might build another monster. An even bigger one. An even worse one. And that's all Donald Trump is. He is a product of the failed liberal elite class. A failure of Barack Obama's Hope and Change, and Joe Biden and the Clintons' crime bills, and all these other things, and NAFTA, and all these other things, failing to provide an outlet, a left-wing outlet, for the type of working class rage that Donald Trump and the Republicans have started to facilitate. Now, the Democrats could have done that. They had Bernie Sanders. I'm not going to pretend I'm the biggest Bernie Sanders fan ever. I think he's compromised a lot to go along with the liberals, but he was the closest thing they had to their own version of that type of Trump figure that working class people could vent, could be mad about, and say that the system has screwed us over and over again, time and time. Instead, they went with America's already great. Really? You're a black person screaming America's already great. That makes sense. Come on. Stop the nonsense. And Trump's pick of J.D. Vance just once again proves what I've always said. He does not have any values. He does not have any beliefs. He doesn't have any morals. J.D. Vance literally called him Hitler, or at least likened him to Hitler. And he still picked him as his vice presidential candidate. All he had to do was just kiss his behind a little bit and be like, oh, I had a complete change of heart, Donald. Really? You thought I was America's Hitler? I could possibly be America's Hitler, and now you love me? Come on. That's completely cynical. And J.D. Vance is a completely cynical actor. He went from, hey, everybody, I'm a liberal who's going to bridge the gap between the liberal elites and the working class whites that you guys wish you could get, to, I'm full MAGA. Look at me. I'm full MAGA. Dude, you went to Yale. You are not full MAGA. Stop the nonsense. You are not that obsessed with cultural issues like abortion and gay this and all. You are not. That is, like, come on. J.D. Vance is an extremely cynical actor, and it makes perfect sense that Donald Trump would pick him. Now, one of the funny things is that Tim Scott went out of his way to beclown himself, basically became the butt of every joke for Donald Trump. He spoke at the RNC, once again beclowning himself so he could get a pat on the head from Trump and the Republicans. These people obviously have zero respect for Tim Scott, but yet he still wants to tap dance for him. He's still cooning.
This is going to offend the liberal elites. Every time I say it, it offends them. But let me say it one more time. America is not a racist country. No, we're not. But if you are looking for racism today, you find it in cities run by Democrats. Look on the south side of Chicago. Poor black kids trapped in failing schools. Thousands shot every single year, including one of my former interns, Daquan. But there's good news. It's conservative values that restores hope. It's Republican policies that lifts people up. I partnered with
of white supremacy. Yes, just cooning. This man is just cooning. Good God. And he, again, what is he getting for this? What is he getting for this? He's not getting anything for this to just sit around and essentially be a mascot for the Republican Party. But he wasn't by himself. Another one of the Republican Party's coons, this time the Indian coon, Vivek Ramaswamy, he had to say his bit about racism.
To those of you watching this at home tonight, I'd like to deliver a message that the media doesn't want you to hear from the Republican Party. Our message to black Americans is this: the media has tried to convince you for decades that Republicans don't care about your communities, but we do. We want for you what we want for every American: safe neighborhoods, clean streets, good jobs, a better life for your children, and a justice system that treats everyone equally, regardless of your skin color and regardless of your political beliefs.
Really? Is that the truth? Is that what you think? Is that what you think? Really? So, when I look back at American history, I'm going to look at a Republican Party that didn't start the war on drugs under Richard Nixon specifically to disrupt and destroy black communities. I'm not going to see Ronald Reagan that expanded the war on drugs to specifically disrupt and destroy black communities. We have DEA agents who specifically say that they were told to only police black neighborhoods and do not go to white neighborhoods to police the drug laws, because they were afraid that if they went to white neighborhoods, they would find somebody important like a Hunter Biden or Ashley Biden and arrest their kids. So they were specifically told to only basically enforce drug laws in black communities so that they can mass incarcerate us. So Ronald Reagan did not work with Nicaraguan drug cartels in the 80s to flood our communities with cheap cocaine leading to the crack epidemic. That didn't happen. And then expand all the drug laws to put all of us in jail. That didn't happen. That wasn't a Republican Party. And what about the Southern strategy? The Southern strategy. Oh yes, that good old-fashioned Southern strategy, where Lee Atwater, who was a advisor to Richard Nixon and Ronald Reagan in the 70s and 80s, he broke down the entirety of the Southern strategy.
Because the goal is not to completely...
Wrong clip. Here we go.
Political science, or no, as a psychologist, which I'm not, is how abstract you handle the race thing. In other words, you start out Yeah, now y'all aren't quoting me on this. All right, I won't hear it. You start out in 1954 by saying nigger, nigger, nigger. By 1968, you can't say nigger. That hurts you, backfire. So you say stuff like forced busing, states' rights, and all that stuff. And you're getting so abstract now. You're talking about cutting taxes, and all of these things you're talking about are totally economic things. And the byproduct of them is blacks get hurt worse than whites.
So that's him saying, that's Lee Atwater, the former advisor to Ronald Reagan and Richard Nixon, saying in the 50s we could say nigger, nigger, nigger. We can't say that anymore in the 60s. We can't say that no more. So we had to talk about busing and segregation and all those other things. And then once we could no longer say that, then we have to talk about tax policies. He said, but the overwhelming principle is the same, that blacks are hurt worse than whites. That's the Southern strategy. That's the GOP Southern strategy. And you have Vivek Ramaswamy right there telling you that the Republicans want the same thing that the Democrats, that black Americans do, which is just, once again, gaslighting. I don't support gaslighting when any of these people do it. So, you know, let me see what else Vivek has to say before I go forward.
Our message to every legal immigrant in this country is this: you're like my parents. You deserve the opportunity to secure a better life for your children in America. But our message to illegal immigrants is also this: we will return you to your country of origin, not because you're all bad people, but because you broke the law. And the United States of America was founded on the rule of law.
Well, that's not true. That's not true either. But he does say something important in that, saying that, again, me and Jonathan used to talk about a lot, the late Jonathan Booth. We always talked about this, about how the Democratic Party had basically ceded labor immigration policy to the Republicans. The left spent the entirety of the 20th century fighting illegal immigration, from A. Philip Randolph, who wrote Immigrant Indigestion. He was a socialist, the greatest black labor leader this country ever had, the man who organized the March on Washington where Martin Luther King gives the I Have a Dream speech. He literally wrote Immigrant Indigestion about how there were too many immigrants and America shouldn't bring no more immigrants in here until black people are fully, ourselves, can fully self-determined in this country. Cesar Chavez, I played the clip 1,000,000 times on this country, on this show, about how he talked about how it was not our job to import Mexico's poverty. It's not our job to import Mexico's poverty, or Guatemala's, or Honduras, or anybody else. He used to go down to the border with his cousin and physically throw illegal immigrants back across the border. Ralph Abernathy, one of Martin Luther King's right-hand men, used to go down there with them to protest illegal immigration. Coretta Scott King wrote the Republicans in the early 90s begging them to do something to stop illegal immigration because it was hurting the black community. Barack Obama wrote in his book about how illegal immigration hurts the black community. That's why the one thing I've ever given Obama credit for was he deported more people than anybody. It's the one good thing I really respect that Obama did. He handled business there. But now, for the most part, most of the Democrats have ceded, so now frauds like Vivek Ramaswamy, who is a complete used car salesman, he's making the case, and you won't hear any of this from the Democrats at the DNC, unfortunately. But that's going to be the reason that a lot of people, and even a lot of black people, vote for Republicans this time, because they say stuff like this. But let's see what else Vivek has to say.
Our message to millennials, speaking as one myself: yes, it's true. Our government sold us a false bill of goods with the Iraq War and the 2008 financial crisis, loading up our national debt that falls on our generation's shoulders, telling us that if we took out college loans, we'd somehow get a head start on the American dream, when it hasn't worked out that way. But we can't just be cynical about our country, because the United States of America is still the last best hope that we have, and we deserve a better class of politician, one who actually tells us the truth, even if it comes with some mean tweets from time to time. And our message to Gen Z is this: you're going to be the generation that actually saves this country. You want to be a rebel? You want to be a hippie? You want to stick it to the man? Show up on your college campus and try calling yourself a conservative. Say you want to get married, have kids, teach them to believe in God and pledge allegiance to their country. Because you know what? Fear has been infectious in this country, but courage can be contagious too. That too is what it means to be an American.
So there you go, once again, another missed opportunity for the Democrats to reach out to be what they used to be. They used to be a strong, religious, traditional oriented left wing in this country. Obviously, I just talked about Martin Luther King, Cesar Chavez, Malcolm X. Those three men were very religious. Jesse Jackson, very religious. Fannie Lou Hamer, extremely religious. She went to the White House in the late 60s and talked to the president about how abortion was legalized murder. Fannie Lou Hamer. The reason that people like Vivek the fake, can essentially make this argument for family values, and the reason that the Republicans have been able to wrap themselves in family values is because the Democrats have ceded it to them. They've said that the only people they have room for are people who support the LGBTQRSTUV agenda, people who support abortion, who support transgenders, all this other stuff. Now, I'm not saying you can't support those things. If you want to support those things, support those things. That's your business. It's your life. I'm pro letting adults be adults. This is a free country. You want to be gay? Go ahead. Go ahead. I mean, that's your business, not mine. But what the Democrats messed up was in forcing these things on people to the point where if you have an opinion that does not agree with the LGBTQRS, or as I like to call it, the Looga Booga Tooga agenda, or abortion, or transgender, this, that, and the other, that they will then say, there is no room for you here. There's no room for traditional families. There's no room for traditional values. There's no room for religion and religious beliefs. You lose your job if you say out loud that you think a man is a man and a woman is a woman. You can't support us if you're supporting transgenocide. If you say that, you're supporting transgenocide if you think a man belongs with a woman and that there's only two genders. No, that's just my beliefs. I'm a Christian. Okay, those are just my beliefs. Do you, but I'm gonna do me. I shouldn't have to apologize for having my beliefs. And the Democrats used to be a big tent that did not force the Looga Booga Tooga stuff on people, did not force abortion on people. Hell, I always tell people, black people are the most religious people in America. Hispanics are number 2. Okay? The only reason the Democrats still get an overwhelming majority of the black vote is because the Republicans are just out and out willing to be alienating to the black community by saying basically overtly racist things or completely gaslighting us like Vivek and Tim Scott just tried to do at the RNC. And now that some of the rhetoric from the right has toned down a little bit, not a lot, but just a little bit, you're seeing a lot of black people. I'm seeing black people I would have never thought would have given Donald Trump a chance. Give Donald Trump a chance. And the Democrats have nobody blamed but themselves. They alienated the populist wing. Hey, they alienated religious people. They've alienated working class people. They've alienated the actual left, the anti-war people. There used to be an anti-war party in this country. Now there isn't. Both parties are war parties. And so sometimes Donald Trump looks more like an anti-war candidate than Joe Biden or whoever the Democrats has out there. That can't be. That cannot be. I'm sorry, folks. But Vivek Ramaswamy is an effective speaker. If you're dumb, you might be taken in by a lot of what he's saying. And most humans are dumb. I'm sorry, I hate to say that, but it's the truth. Most humans are dumb. A lot of them are. And they fall for this crap. And whose fault is it that they fall for this crap? The people who did not give them an outlet to be heard in their own party. And so, look, the RNC, I'm not a big fan of everything or most of what went on here. But I will say it seemed to be an effective political convention. Oh, I want to get into this. To me, this is sort of brings it home for me. This is Amber Rose. You may not know who Amber Rose is, but your children know who Amber Rose is, or your grandchildren know who Amber Rose is. She is known for mostly dating Kanye West and Wiz Khalifa and being sort of a video vixen, a hip-hop video vixen. Well, she's now coming out as a Trump supporter, and they had her speak at the RNC, which was just like the rest of this, very surreal.
The first person I knew who supported Donald Trump was my father. I was shocked. My entire family is racially diverse, and I believed the left-wing propaganda that Donald Trump was a racist. My father said, "No, he's not, Amber. What are you talking about?" And when I insisted, he said, "Prove it." So to prove my father wrong, I did my research and looked into all things Donald Trump. People have to do their research. I watched all the rallies, and I started meeting so many of you, his red hat wearing supporters. I realized Donald Trump and his supporters don't care if you're black, white, gay, or straight. It's all love. And that's when it hit me. These are my people. This is where I belong.
Yep, that was Amber Rose, a woman who is famous for the slut walk. You heard me. She actually organizes this event called the Slut Walk, where it is women who are loud and proud about being sexually promiscuous, and they march. They actually shut down the streets in Los Angeles, California. And they've actually had a few of these events, I think, in different cities around the world. So she's that type of feminist, which sort of, again, brings up something that I've talked about for years, the psyop that is modern feminism, and how we all know, or at least we should, if you listen to this show, you should, that Gloria Steinem worked for the CIA. She was a CIA agent. And this is the type of disharmony that they sowed in our community for 50 years now. You know, the sort of trash can, the bimbo feminism, as I like to call it. So that was Amber Rose, and the right wing were going around calling her a hip-hop legend, a hip-hop icon. I'm like, this woman is known for best for sleeping with rappers. That doesn't make you an icon. Seriously. But they take her seriously, unfortunately. Van Jones almost, you know, I thought Van Jones wanted to vote for her for president. which was just another embarrassing moment in the long, bizarre career of Mr. Van Jones. All right, folks, I gotta go away from this. I'm having too much fun talking about this. I won't get to the happies. So, which is just as important as anything else on this show. We gotta love and show respect to the people who've done great things in our society, and celebrate our culture. So when I come back, we're gonna get to the happies. Be right back after these.